Welcome in or welcome back. Today we are going to be continuing the book of the Sacred Bond. We are on chapter 5, 6, 7, 8 of the Two Worlds Path Scripture. This chapter is the doctrine of distorted desire, unwanted attraction, and the path of restoration. This should be a doozy. Definitely information that needs to be put out there. The wounded river does not cease to be water, but it must be turned gently, firmly, persistently back toward the sea. The Elder Instructor's fifth discourse on the healing of what was broken. This chapter is written with deep compassion, clear ethical boundaries, and a commitment to both the dignity of those who suffer unwanted attractions and the absolute protection of all who might be harmed. The tone the path adopts here is neither condemning nor permissive. It is the voice of the wisest, most compassionate elder who has looked upon suffering and knows that suffering must be met with honesty, humility, accountability, and skilled human care. Spiritual language, ritual practice, and community support may strengthen the walker's resolve, but they do not replace professional assessment, professional treatment, or civil protection when safety is at issue. Felt like something was crawling on me. No walker who is in genuine distress about what they carry and who has not acted upon it comes. No walker who is in genuine distress about what they carry and who has not acted upon it comes to this chapter to be condemned. They come to be helped. Okay, I just read that like really weird. I don't know. They don't come there to this chapter to be condemned. They come to be helped, and the path receives them with that intention. This chapter is therefore not a substitute for therapy, psychiatric care, mandated reporting, safety planning, or any other professional or legal intervention. No elder, priest, teacher, ritual leader, or community circle of the path is authorized to treat these matters alone. Where the burden described in this chapter is present, the first faithful response is contact with a qualified helper. Where risk to a child is present, the first faithful response is protection and civil reporting. Part 1, the path's teaching on desire. The Two Worlds Path teaches that desire is a force, not an identity. Also, before we continue, I want to say any, recommendation to like professionals, counselors, law officials, whatever. You always keep in mind to use your discernment, because there are those in those positions that should not be in those positions. That will probably cause more harm to the situation if allowed to. So always keep that in mind, okay? That's why it's important to know how to tap into your sacral response or whatever your human design response is for understanding what your truth. Your human design. What's the word? Of however you're created to discern truth accurately, okay? Most people are generators, so it'd be the sacral response. I need to study it more. I'm gonna try to do videos on human design. I separated all my cards that would be like on that. and I was going to do a video on it, but then a million other things came up, so I wasn't able to do that. Okay, anyways, the rising, okay, the two worlds path. Okay, the two worlds path teaches that desire is a force, not an identity. The arising of attraction, any attraction, is not in itself a moral act. It is the acting upon an attraction that carries moral weight. And that is always a choice and always carries consequence. No walker is condemned by the path for what arises within them. Every walker is accountable for what they choose to do with what arises. This distinction is not a technicality. It is the foundation upon which all healing of distorted desire must rest. A walker who cannot distinguish between the arising of attraction and the choice to act upon it will never be able to exercise the profound self-governance the path calls them to. A walker who knows this distinction clearly has already taken the most important first step. Alright, part 2, the doctrine of distorted desire. The path teaches that some desires arise not from the soul's genuine orientation toward love and connection, but from wounds, from developmental disruption, from trauma experienced or witnessed in early life, from patterns installed before the self was old enough to choose or refuse them. The path names these as wound desires, desires that are not expressions of the soul's true longing, but distortions of it. The crucial distinction the path makes is this: a wound desire is not the walker's true desire. It is a distortion created by damage to the structures through which desire normally develops. It points in its wounded way toward something real, toward the need for connection, for being known, for the sense of significance and safety that love is meant to provide. But it points toward it in a way that is distorted and, if acted upon, harmful. The path teaches that wound desires can be compassionately witnessed and responsibly managed, and that healing may be responsible when the underlying wound is addressed through qualified professional care. The path does not promise cure, does not offer ritual as treatment, and does not ask the walker to rely on spiritual discipline alone. Suppression can deepen secrecy and danger. Professional help, honest accountability, and carefully structured safety are therefore essential. Part 3. A word directly to those who carry this burden. The path speaks here directly and without rhetorical distance to any walker who has come to this chapter because they carry desires they did not choose, desires that trouble them, that frighten them, that they have perhaps never spoken aloud to any person, and that they have not acted upon and do not wish to. You are not beyond the reach of help. You are not what your wound desire says you are. You are a walker carrying something serious that must be faced honestly, restrained absolutely, and brought into the care of qualified professionals. You are doing the right thing by refusing to act, by seeking help, and by accepting the structures of accountability and safety that such help may require. The path honors honesty and restraint, but it does not confuse honor with exemption from professional care or protective boundaries. Part 4. The absolute boundary. The path states without qualification, without ambiguity, and without the possibility of interpretation or exception, any attraction to a child, defined as any person who has not reached full adult maturation, emotional capacity for consent, and any legal age, may never, under any doctrine, framework, tradition, or spiritual claim, be acted upon. Therefore, there is no tradition of the two worlds path, no interpretation of the arc forces, no reading of the luminous work, which We didn't read those books yet because I skipped to the Sacred Bond because that's what Spirit wanted to read, so we'll get to them though. And no personal revelation that permits, excuses, spiritualizes, or provides cover for the harm of a child. None. The child is inviolable. This is the absolute covenant of innocence and is not subject to debate, to personal interpretation, to exceptional circumstance, or to any level of spiritual authority. It stands above every other consideration in the Walker's canon. Alright. Part 3. A word directly to those who carry this burden. The path... Oh, I just read that. Okay, wait. Oops, okay. Sorry, I'm like... My asthma's kicking in. I'm like breaking out in hives. It's just... I'm a hot mess. Alright, 5. The suffering of unwanted attraction. I'm like allergic to my hair because my hair everywhere it touches is making me like break out in hives. I don't know. Okay. Also, I was given this creepy download that I feel like I need to share. That there's this thing where there's like witches and warlocks or whatever. They literally, like, from what Spirit told me, they actually attach their own hair to people's heads in order to siphon from them and do shit from them. So, like, I've been shedding a lot recently, and some people might say, like, oh, someone's probably doing... First of all, it could just be because of the seasons and stuff like that, and people just naturally shed their hair. It could also be because my diet is all over the freaking place. I've been eating vegetarian during this Mercury retrograde for the most part, except I didn't realize, I don't know if I even want to say that because I feel like people would just be using shit against me or whatever. Regardless, it's nobody's business anyway what I'm doing. But as far as like, you know, anyways, I mean, I guess it is people's business at the end of the day, because I feel like it's everybody's business what people are eating, especially if they're eating stuff like children, like that, you know, is a huge problem going on. But yeah, okay, I ate an egg roll. I didn't realize there was pork in it, which, you know, that's gross. Because it's just, you know, I'm trying to stay away from cruelty. I also just, you know, really don't want to eat mammals. I have eaten fish willingly. Very rarely. The last time I ate it, though, it tasted like pure metal, which is what parasites and stuff eat. And I'm on a parasite cleanse right now. And, yeah. Anyways, so I don't know if my hair is falling out because of that, or if it's because my energetic spiritual boundaries are up and I'm shedding all of this like hair that these like witches and warlocks attach. I know this is like a very strange concept, but I'm sure some of you have probably come across this, or you've even done this to people. But it's almost like, you know, when people get extensions or weaves or whatever, but they do it like, ugh, it's like creepy. So I don't know if that's what's going on here. I could just be allergic to like I just have really sensitive skin as well, I'm pretty sure. So I get like contact dermatitis or whatever just by stuff like touching me. Sometimes it causes like weird reactions. But anyways, if there's any nefarious crap going on, I rebuke that shit in the name of the Most High, Elohim Adonai, and the Holy Ghost is with the mostest, and a big okay. Alright, anyways, where were we? The path acknowledges that persons who experience unwanted attractions of this kind and have not acted upon them frequently carry an extraordinary burden of suffering. Shame so profound it can isolate them from every form of human connection. fear of being discovered and destroyed, the exhausting weight of constant vigilance, and the particular loneliness of carrying something that cannot, by the ordinary channels of human understanding, be shared. This suffering is real, and it is compassionately witnessed by the path. The path also knows that isolation can make the burden heavier, the risk of eventual failure greater, and the possibility of responsible management smaller. Connection is therefore necessary, but only the right kind of connection. Confidential. Oh my god, now it feels like there's crap crawling like all over my face. Confidential, professional, appropriately bounded, and guided by those trained to assess risk, support treatment, and build safety plans. General disclosure, private spiritual counsel alone, or informal community handling is not sufficient. Part 6, the Path of Restoration. The path sets forth a 6-step framework for those who carry wound desires and seek responsible help. I think also people just like, there's a lot of evil people that don't want me to like talk about this stuff because they don't want people that like have this problem to actually like get help because they're fucking assholes. Alright, where were we? Alright, part 6, the path. Alright, the path of restoration. The path sets forth a 6-step framework for those who carry wound desires and seek responsible help. This framework is spiritual and ethical in character. It is not a clinical treatment plan. Its first continuing and governing requirement is engagement with a qualified helper, whose professional judgment guides all questions of treatment, risk, disclosure, support, and safety. The first step, disclosure to a qualified helper. The path strongly, clearly, and urgently instructs any walker carrying wound desires toward professional therapeutic support, a trained mental health professional who has specific expertise in this area. This is not optional within the framework of the path. It is the first act, the foundational act, and the continuing center of the work. No subsequent step may be used to delay, replace, or dilute this one. No walker heals alone what was broken in the relationship. You were wounded in the world of others. You must heal in the world of others, safely, confidentially, and with the specific expertise of a qualified helper. The term qualified helper is used throughout this chapter to refer specifically to this trained professional, not to community elders, spiritual advisors, ritual leaders, or well-meaning friends, though these may play supporting roles only when appropriate and never as substitutes. So I do want to say, like, the qualified helper could be a member of the Two Worlds Path, but obviously they would just need to have credentials and expertise in this specific area, right? The second step, the covenant of non-action. The walker formally, privately, and solemnly covenants with themselves and before the arc forces as witnesses that they will not act upon the wound desire under any circumstances. The next chapter we're going to do is going to be, or the next book we're going to do is the one that was supposed to come next, which was the arc forces, and it talks about like the holy ghosts and stuff, like all that, the dream walkers. All right. So, that they will not act upon the wound desire under any circumstance. This covenant is renewed daily. It is not a promise of how the walker will feel, but a promise of what the walker will choose. The distinction between feeling and choosing is everything. The covenant does not demand that the walker feel nothing, only that they choose each day not to act. The third step, liminal defense practice. The path cross-references extensively to Book 11, Chapter 8, the doctrine of liminal defense, the 5 shields, the repulsion protocol, and the banishing work. The techniques of that chapter are applied here only as supplementary practices. Something about an earthquake just popped up on my phone. 5.0 earthquake. Supplementary practices for self-awareness, interruption of rumination, and spiritual steadiness. They are not treatment, they are not risk assessment, and they are not a safety plan. The walker uses them under the governing priority of professional care, learning to observe the arising thought, name it as a wound desire rather than a genuine desire, and redirect before the thought is dwelt upon. The fourth step, redirecting toward healthy connection. With the support and guidance of the qualified helper, the walker works to understand the developmental wound or trauma that underlines the wound desire. As this understanding deepens, the walker also works to cultivate genuinely healthy adult connection, intimacy, and relationship, not as a substitute or a distraction, but as the restoration of desire's proper and genuine orientation. The goal is not the erasure of the self, but the restoration of the self to its full and undistorted form. Okay. I had to reread that a little bit for a second because I got so distracted by the earthquake thing and then some noises outside. Okay. And I'm itchy AF still. The fifth step, I feel like a toddler, with ADD right now. It's so bad. The fifth step, community in appropriate form. The path recognizes that peer support in appropriate, professionally facilitated context has been documented to reduce risk and increase the well-being and the resilience of those carrying these burdens. The walker is not encouraged to disclose widely to the general community, where such disclosure may create danger without providing meaningful support. Rather, the walker is encouraged to seek out qualified, facilitated support communities designed specifically for this purpose, where honesty is possible without the risks of general disclosure. The qualified helper is the best guide to what is available in any given location. The sixth step, daily practice. The walker incorporates into their daily life the purification practices of Book 11, Chapter 1, the dream walking discernment rites of Book 11, Chapter 6, and the watcher self-practice of sustained self-observation. These are not punishment, they are medicine, the practices of self-awareness and self-governance that the path has always prescribed for any walker navigating any deep challenge of the inner life. They are especially essential here. And you can find this book that it's talking about on my website, listed here. Okay, it's also in the description. And if you go to the shop under creative downloadable content or something, I think it's called, it should be in there, because I don't think the liminal defense book I was able to put in the blog post, because there's also a references section in the top left where I put most of the books, but 2 of them I wasn't able to. I know it was the financial one, and I think it was this one, the liminal defense. So you have to just download it. You can put it in a fake name, fake address, it doesn't matter. It's just the only way I could figure out how to do it. It's free, okay? So if you wanted to try to look at that or whatever, if you could know somebody who's going through this, or you could be a professional, whatever, it might help. I don't know. Or, you could have been subject to some type of abuse or whatever, and just knowing how to protect yourself can be really helpful. It's an extremely long book. It's going to take a while to get through that one. I mean, all of these are pretty long, so this is like an hour per chapter, and there's 10 chapters. It's like 10 hours. Okay. So, if I had like more than one phone or like something, I don't know. I have a GoPro. Maybe I should start recording on that. Because then I could record more. Because I can't like keep up with all the uploading and stuff. Like with my phone, it's so crappy and slow and has very little storage space. So it makes it very difficult. So yeah, I might try to do that. You can't pause on that, and I need to pause a lot because I have like ADD and interruptions a lot and stuff like that. Whatever, we'll figure it out. Okay. They are medicine, the practices of self-awareness and self-governance that the path has always prescribed for any walker navigating any deep challenge of the inner life. They are especially essential here. There you go. All right. Part 5, 6, 7. A note on the wider community. Walkers who become aware that another walker is carrying wound desires and seeking healing are called neither to ostracize nor to minimize. They are called to support the walker's therapeutic journey by encouraging continued engagement with the qualified helper. To maintain appropriate vigilance around children in contexts where the healing walker has access to them, and to trust qualified professionals with the clinical assessment of risk, not to appoint themselves as judges, jailers, or sole guarantors of safety. That's a big one, man, because, you know, like, I understand, like, having, like, passionate hatred or, like, feeling, like, very angry towards anybody who does any type of shit like this, right? But there comes a level of, like, having a heart where you have to understand that most of the people that do shit like this were severely abused as a child, or, like, for their, like, even well into their adolescence, which adolescence, right, would be like teenage years, and then even into their young adulthood, severely abused. And, you know, when that's like all you know, like I've met somebody who, like, they explained to me how they didn't know what they were doing was wrong. They were abused by their cousin, and like they thought that was normal. So then they ended up like doing something similar to their younger cousin themselves. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then they got help when they were 15. They got help, and they seemed like they were okay. Like I didn't, you know, get the vibes that they, you know, they seemed like a good person, and they were very open and honest about everything, and you know, their family even was and stuff, like, because these were people that like I lived near, or they were like my neighbors 2 doors down, like a long time ago. And so the being open and honest and stuff, like, I don't know if you really need to be like to that level or whatever. I heard, like, spirit told me that this person was when I first met the person, because when they came over to our house, they came over to like introduce themselves, and like spirit told me. And then like the next time they had come over again, they were like super, like a little overly friendly, I don't know. They ended up telling me that, and I was like, that's so weird. But yeah, so like, you know, judging people harshly, getting out the pitchforks and machetes, the torches and all of that, is never going to help anyone at the end of the day. It's just an endless cycle of abuse. You know, people need healing. They need healing. They need restoration. Your history is important, but who you are today and tomorrow is what truly matters. Okay? We all can make mistakes. Like, say for example, you have like anger issues, and like you're doing pretty good, but then all of a sudden like you freak the fuck out. That doesn't mean that you're a violent piece of shit and that's all you are. it means that you have an issue. And it's, you could also look at it like somebody that's addicted to drugs or whatever, or that had an addiction to drugs or was addicted to drugs. I would we all need to really work on framing people as what the malady is. Saying like somebody is a drug abuser, or saying somebody is a PDF file, or saying somebody is this or is that. They have this issue, or they have this diagnosis. They aren't defined by it. To put anybody in a little box like that is just absolutely egregious. I don't care how fucked up it is, because yes, that's honestly the most unambiguous fucked up thing. Okay, let's not sugarcoat it. All right, but in terms of other things, I would say. Just try to give a little perspective here. In terms of other things, like say for example, somebody that is addicted to alcohol, right? To one person, somebody that's addicted to alcohol, they're gonna look at them like they're an absolute fucking monster, because perhaps they lost somebody super close to them by somebody that was driving drunk. See, I almost said a drunk driver. Somebody that was driving drunk. That's like the whole slave thing too. I know I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but like I had brought up the other day about Elon Musk, and how I just was throwing out theories about celebrities and things like that, and how super, the people that are in power most likely aren't going to be broadcasting that to the general public, because the ones that are truly in power, they're not going to want the general public to know, because they're enslaving them and treating them like shit. So they're going to put the face on somebody else. So Elon Musk, for example, could actually be enslaved. And I had referred to him, I think I said he might be a slave, and that's not appropriate way to explain that situation. It'd be they are enslaved or they were enslaved, that kind of thing. Just like if somebody has depression, they're not depressed, they have depression. They're experiencing depression. They're not depression. They're not their anger. We're all multifaceted beings, right? But, I think just so many times people just, umbrella somebody all into one little interpretation. They diminish their character. They diminish their being, their essence, their light that is inside of all of us. No matter how fucking dim you might think it is, it's there. And, to be able to see that, recognize it, respect it, and try to nourish it is actually what it takes to be a enlightened being, or to be, I don't even know, just to be a good-hearted person, right? That's true virtue right there. Okay, so all y'all motherfuckers out there can virtue signal all you want. You can take your pitchforks and machetes and talk shit on people doing bad stuff, but do you ever care to look deeper as to why they're doing it in the first place? And who failed to help them to not fucking do that? Now, there are people or beings who have been offered help, who others have tried to relentlessly help, or have tried relentlessly to help. And these people actively choose to stay in those roles. Now that is where it's that's where it's okay, I can kind of, I still don't agree with corporal punishment and stuff, and I really don't believe that nobody can be, that there's anyone that can't be saved. I really don't. I don't buy that narrative. I just think there would need to be a little more extreme measures there taken. But it's the way that people go about it is just more harmful than good. Okay? All right. Anyways, a note on the wider. Okay, where are we? Child protection is entrusted by the path to the full structure of the community, professional therapeutic care, and the absolute covenant of innocence working together. No single safeguard without the others is sufficient. All three are required. The path does not permit the use of any spiritual practice, magical operation, ritual, or framework of the two worlds path to approach, groom, or engage with any child or minor in any romantic, sexual, or manipulative context. Any walker who attempts this has placed themselves entirely outside the absolute covenant of innocence and the community by their own action. See Chapter 9 for the absolute covenant of innocence in full. See, and for me, one thing that I think people need to understand too is, like, scientifically speaking, the brain isn't fully developed until you're at least the age 25. So I don't think anybody should be engaging in sexual acts before they come to that age, because they're not really fully capable or responsible enough to be able to handle the consequences that could happen from that, right? Or the full weight of what that really entails. And so that right there is a huge thing. And then just also, like, you know, I feel like it should be looked at as like a predator kind of thing, where somebody is older than that age dating or sexually involved with someone below that age. You know what I mean? Like, their brain's not fully developed. Like, so Alright, to every walker who carries what they did not choose, the path sees you. To every walker who has held the line day after day with no witness but their own soul, the path honors you. To every walker who has sought help, who has spoken the unspeakable to the one qualified to hear it, the path stands beside you. The wound is not the end. The turning is possible. The sea is always present, waiting to receive the river that has been redirected toward it. The wound is not the end. The turning is possible. I just read the same thing twice. Okay. I'm really doing great today. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. So it is taught with all the compassion the path possesses and with all its clarity. Let no walker misunderstand the mercy of this chapter. Compassion for the one who seeks help is never permission, never secrecy, never minimization, and never protection from accountability where a child may be at risk. The path extends a hand toward restoration only while both feet stand inside the absolute covenant of innocence. If there is any danger to a child, the duty of protection rises first, stands first, and commands first. Therefore, the next chapter is not an afterword to restoration, but its boundary and its judge. It names the child as inviolable, the community as accountable, the civil protection as necessary wherever harm or risk is present. The walker may be compassionate without being confused. The walker may support healing without ever lowering the shield around the innocent. Okay, and that's the end of that chapter. Next we have chapter 9, the protection of the innocent, the absolute covenant of innocence. I guess I could try to read this. Let's see. Alright, the child comes to us not as clay to be shaped by our hands, but as a soul arriving, requiring only to be safe while it finds its own shape. Our task is not to form it, our task is to protect it. The Book of Kin, 7th tablet, witnessed to innocence. This chapter stands alone. It is not a continuation of the chapter that precedes it, though it is the natural completion of that chapter's teaching. The compassion extended to any walker seeking restoration never lessens, delays, or complicates the first duty of the path, the protection of every child. This chapter is therefore a separate, solemn, and complete declaration. The walker is asked to read it as such, not as one chapter among many, but as the path's most fundamental statement about what it will and will not protect. The answer is, the path protects the child above all things, before every other consideration, without exception, qualification, or spiritual override. Part 1. The Absolute Covenant of Innocence. The Absolute Covenant of Innocence is the path's primary, irreducible, and governing term for its doctrine of child protection. Earlier phrases such as the child's covenant, the covenant of the child, or the children's covenant are poetic or local references to the same principle unless otherwise specified. The formal doctrine is stated here in its full scriptural form. Children are inviolable. Their developing minds, bodies, and souls are held under direct and permanent protection of the ark forces. No teaching, tradition, cultural practice, spiritual authority, personal revolution, interpretation of scripture, claim of divine mandate, or application of any framework within or adjacent to the two worlds path may be invoked by any walker at any level of seniority or community standing to justify, explain, contextualize, minimize, or in any way provide cover for harm to a child. A child, for the purposes of this covenant, is any person who has not reached full adult maturation, emotional capacity for genuine and informed consent, and legal age as defined by the civil law of the jurisdiction in which the walker resides. No argument from spiritual maturity, from the child's apparent willingness, from cultural tradition, or from any other source alters this definition or the covenant's application to it. This covenant admits no exceptions. It has no footnote, no suspended season, and no alternate reading. It is absolute, and it is held absolutely. Part 2, the walker's duty of protection. Every walker, without exception, is a guardian of every child in their community. This is not a role available only to parents or caregivers. It belongs to every walker who breathes. It is not an optional spiritual practice. It is a primary obligation of walkerhood, ranking above all other spiritual considerations when children's safety is at stake. The path has always taught that the test of any community's spiritual health is how it treats its most vulnerable members. The child is the most vulnerable of all members, not because children are weak, but because they are in formation, because their trust is instinctive, because their capacity to protect themselves from adult malice is limited by the very developmental factors that make them children. Every advantage of knowledge, experience, and power runs in favor of the adult. The walker's duty is to ensure that this advantage is never turned against the child in their community. Part 3, the 3 covenants of the child guardian. The path names 3 specific covenants that every walker takes on in accepting the duty of child protection. These are not aspirational goals. They are minimum requirements of walkerhood in the matter of children's safety. The first is the covenant of watchfulness. The walker attends to the safety of children in their sphere, not with paranoia, not with the weaponization of suspicion, but with the consistent, grounded clarity that knows what safety looks like and notices when something is not right. Watchfulness is a practice of presence, not of fear. The second is the covenant of voice. If a child discloses harm in words and behavior in the language of the body that children use when words are not yet available to them, the walker believes. They do not minimize. They do not investigate whether what the child said could have other explanations before they respond. They do not weigh the child's testimony against the standing of the adult the child has named. They act. The path forbids silence in the face of a child's disclosed harm, and it considers silence in such moments a violation of the covenant of voice. The third is the covenant of reporting. The walker uses every available civil and legal mechanism to ensure a child's safety. This is stated explicitly and without qualification. The path affirms the authority and the absolute necessity of civil child protection systems, spiritual community structures, religious authority, communal discernment, and path-based practices are never, under any circumstances, a replacement for the legal reporting of child harm to the proper civil authorities. When a child is at risk, the civil system is engaged. There's no path teaching that creates an exception to this. Again, use your discernment. There are literally people in positions of power in the justice system and all of that. I feel like things have changed a lot recently, though. We'll see. But, just use your discernment, okay? That's all I gotta say. Alright, so, part, 4, the signs of a child in harm. Alright. The walker who has accepted the covenant of watchfulness must be equipped to fulfill it. The path offers, with care and sensitivity, a teaching on the common indicators that a child may be experiencing harm. Behavioral indicators may include sudden withdrawal from people or activities that were previously enjoyed, marked changes in behavior, temperament, or emotional expression that have no apparent external cause, age-inappropriate sexual language or behavior, sleep disturbance, nightmares, or a sudden fear of darkness or of being alone, regression to behaviors typical of a younger developmental stage, and a specific pronounced fear of or avoidance of particular adults or places. Emotional indicators may include persistent sadness, anxiety, or emotional flatness, an unusual and heightened need for reassurance and safety, difficulty trusting adults who should be trustworthy, and the expression in play or in story or in drawing of themes that suggest fear, pain, or circumstances beyond the child's age-appropriate experience. The walker who observes these indicators does not diagnose. They do not investigate. They do not confront the adults who may be responsible. They ensure the child's immediate safety, and they engage the covenant of reporting. The role of the walker is not to be the investigator, but to be the first link in the chain of protection that leads to those who are equipped to investigate and intervene. Part 5, the doctrine of the child's sovereignty. Children are not property. They are not extensions of their parents' identities, aspirations, or will. They are not objects of adult desire or vehicles for adult need. They are walker souls in formation, complete souls, not yet complete in their development, but as real, as present, and as sacred as any adult walker in the community. The path names the doctrine of the child's sovereignty to name this explicitly. The child's inner life, their body, their sense of self, and their developing identity belong to them and to no other person. The adult who cares for a child is a steward, not an owner. The steward's role is to protect what they hold in trust until the soul in formation is ready to hold it for themselves. The prayer of protection, part 6, the prayer of protection for the children. We call upon the arc forces, the luminous ones, and all who walk in the path of light, to hold in the center of their protection every child who breathes this day. Every child who is safe, keep them safe. Every child who is in danger, bring them help, swiftly and through the hands of those with power to help. Every child who carries what they should not have to carry, let them be seen, believed, and relieved of it. Every child who does not have words for what has been done to them, let someone who loves them notice. We name the children as the primary treasure of any living community. We name the protection of children as the measure of our integrity as walkers. We name our vigilance as a vow, and our voice as a covenant, and our willingness to act as the most sacred of our obligations. May no child in our sphere be left without a guardian. May no disclosure go unbelieved. May no harm go unreported. May no spiritual claim override the safety of a child in our care. We swear this before one another and before whatever is most holy. So let it be sworn, so let it be kept. The absolute covenant of innocence is sealed here, and sealed again in every community that reads it aloud. So it stands, the children are protected. This is the past's final word on the matter. With the absolute covenant of innocence stated, the book has reached its firmest boundary. Only after that boundary is made immovable can the path return to the wider web of love, kinship, chosen family, elders, and community that allows sacred bonds to be sustained in ordinary life. So the next chapter is chapter 10, the community of love, kin, family, and the circle of belonging. Okay, and that's the last chapter. All right, but we're gonna have to come back to that because we're out of time. Yeah, that's all for today. That was a little bit of a hard one to get through, but you know, definitely very important. If y'all didn't care for that prayer or whatever, make up your own prayer. What's important is the intention behind it, the speaking it out loud, putting your heart energy towards this mission of protecting the children is super important. Okay? All right, and that's the message I have for you, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye!